Hello there, welcome along to another edition of the official EFL podcast. Plenty to talk about off the back of another very busy midweek in these divisions that we all know and love. Stockport County are absolutely flying after 5 wins on the spin. Boss Dave Challinor stops by for a chat.
The best of us is still to come, because if you look at what we've got out of the team currently in terms of injuries, we're at the moment, we're having a great run. If we can get through the next month, we'd hope to have sort of 6, maybe 7 real senior pros back in our squad, and then all of a sudden that just gives us more depth.
Sky Sports commentator Gary Weaver stops by once again to help us talk our way through all 3 divisions, and to celebrate Black History Month throughout October we'll be featuring some true footballing icons, with the first being chosen by Leyton Orient's Omar Beckles. Welcome along to the official EFL podcast. Right, let's get cracking. It's another episode of the official EFL podcast, and wonderfully back with us once again is Sky Sports' very own Gary Weaver. Gary, how are you?
I'm good, Prutts. You're everywhere at the moment, aren't you? On television, podcasts,
yes.
adverts. Yeah. Was that Ryland Clark I'm thinking about?
No. If you want a quality second-hand car, I'm your man. I am your man.
We do call you that, don't we, on the WhatsApp?
You do. You do.
I always think Danny McFly. That is you, okay, Danny McFly.
That'll do. The fact that you listen to McFly is tragic. Right, it's been a busy week in the EFL. We're going to start in the Championship. And if the question is, can you do it on a wet night at Stoke on a Tuesday? The answer, emphatically, Gary Weaver, is yes. You were there. Stoke Southampton, Stuart Armstrong stepped up to the plate. And it feels, off the back of that wonderful result against Leeds at the weekend, after 4 defeats on the spin, are we seeing a Saints side turning a corner?
I think we might be. Obviously, great result against Leeds and performance. Prutts spoke to Russell Martin in the lead up to that game against Leeds, and he was quite upbeat actually ahead of that game. He was on about losing Jack Stevens in the game against Queen's Park Rangers. They'd missed him as a leader. He put their defensive problems down to that. Also, not having a centre back partnership on a regular basis, which Harwood Bellis and Bednarek are now becoming. Carlos Alcaraz as well. He's moved his position slightly now from, he felt he was too much of a free spirit maybe playing in that midfield 3, so he's played as this false 9 in the last couple of games, and it kind of it gives him a bit more freedom to do what he wants to do. Russell Martin's been fairly upbeat. Obviously back-to-back wins will do that, and a clean sheet, which is massive for Southampton.
It is, considering what we saw from them defensively, the poorest defence in the division. I tell you who's got the best defence, Leicester City, joint top scorers as well, back top of the league. We saw them go through the gears against Blackburn Rovers. We saw them again last night. Emphatic. It's a club. It's one that we're not going to tire of talking about, because it feels like they're going to be there for the long term over the course of the season. The squad's fantastic. Enzo Maresca seems like he understands pretty quickly what the Championship is about. And in a player in Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, my word, he is a joy to watch, isn't he?
Well, we did the game against Norwich the other week, and he came off the bench in the second half. He was just a class act. Enzo Maresca, he's obviously watched a lot of him before taking over at Leicester City, and he told him, you can up your stats, goals, assists, get in the box when the other number 8 has the ball, and the half space as they call it now, get in that box when the other number 8 has it. You get in the box on the end of things. He's got 5 goals now so far this season, but yeah, Enzo Maresca saw that in him, that he could increase his numbers. And also Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, he said at the start of the season, I want to be the best player in the Championship. So, big ambition. He's been there before with Luton, so he's had a head start in the Championship, if you like, with the loan spell he had there. But yeah, he's been a class above so far.
Does it feel like that stood him in good stead from what we've seen so far in the Champ?
I think so, because he knew what was coming, he knew all about it. And I think the shock, obviously, of Leicester going down, I think to everybody, the fact that they spiralled and went down. Obviously, it's been an opportunity for him to really get his feet under the table and get stuck into the Championship. And also, Prutts, the fans, obviously, you don't want to get relegated, but they're winning games every week now. And that's what you want to see your football team do, isn't it? Albeit they'll want to see them do it in the Premier League, of course. I do wonder, though, we've seen starts like this before, and then we've seen teams suddenly hit the Championship grind and then recover. So you do wonder if there'll be a slip at some stage, because that's just the way the Championship is. But at the moment, there's no stopping them.
Second versus third is at the weekend. Ipswich against Preston. Ipswich, again, another team with momentum. Talk about starting brightly. They did exactly that. Preston did the same. They beat Hull City during the course of the week, 3-0 at home. And a certain Ed Sheeran was in the dressing room afterwards, celebrating that particular win. The cynic in me and that was in the studio with us said, well, yeah, he's got an album to promote. But
No, come on.
But I mean, it just goes to show, doesn't it? Well, the kind of, I'm not saying that because Ed Sheeran's there, that means they're moving in exalted circles. But we've spoken to Kieran. We've mentioned Kieran so many times. We looked at the impact of Connor Chaplin, of George Hurst. The team that he's got is free scoring, is expressive, is expansive. We thought perhaps, given what they had to do to get out of League One, have a lot of possession, break a lot of teams down. Have we seen an evolution a little bit in how they approach games? Because they're looking at the Championship and making light work of it thus far.
Yeah, well, I remember when we had him on a few weeks ago, didn't we? And we said, are you going to change your style of play? And I think he said sometimes you might have to adapt slightly, but he still wants that style of play. And, Connor Chaplin's goal the other night went from the goalkeeper all the way through to him, and he put it away brilliantly. And do you remember when he was saying, "Oh, you never show this, you never show that. If mistakes are made when the ball goes long, you always show mistakes passing out from the back." But obviously, that goal that Connor scored, I think Kieran McKenna's ideal goal. That'll be a poster on his wall somewhere because it's gone from the keeper out the back. And I think the start Ipswich has made is just giving them so much confidence. I mean, they were beaten by Leeds, but what was it, 4-3? It's such a brilliant game, and they're involved in excellent games at the moment. And we mentioned the atmosphere there, and also they will concede because of the way they play, I guess. But they're kind of the entertainers in the Championship. Their games are brilliant.
Key games coming up over the course of the weekend. Birmingham West Brom, a second city derby on Friday night. That'll be one to look forward to. Yep. We're up in the northeast. Sunderland taking on Borough. And if you kind of work your way down with regards to fixtures that are coming up, Sheffield Wednesday, Huddersfield at Hillsborough, 3 o'clock on Saturday, would have been juicy enough as it was with Darren Moore taking his team there after only being at Wednesday just a few months back.
Yeah.
Currently managerless now. Cisco Munoz has been moved on. Another defeat during the course of the week against West Brom. No wins at all, just 2 points. Bottom of the Championship. We were there on Friday night. To say it was uncomfortable is a bit of an understatement. We saw and read the statement from the owner, Dave Challinor, on Friday morning. There was a lot of anger directed towards the owner and the manager. As is the case, the manager is the one that bears the brunt of all this. Give me a summation of Wednesday. Where do they go? And more importantly, Gary, who comes in?
Well, I think the thing is, Prutts, obviously we were there at the back end of last season, that incredible playoff run they had. And you'll never know what was going to happen with Darren Moore, Sheffield Wednesday in the Championship. But what I do know is as soon as Darren Moore left, that went. All that momentum, gone. And they were on the back foot. Obviously, Cisco Munoz, he was desperate to come back into English football. I know that. We know the fallout with Dave Chansiri and Darren. Well, not so much the fallout, but what they disagreed on was the wages offered to Darren Moore. Dave Chansiri felt that's all he could offer. He went as high as he could. Darren Moore didn't feel it valued him and his team and what had been done, and that's why there was a part in other ways. So whether Cisco Munoz came in on the same amount of money, we'll never know. It's nothing to do with us. But where they go from here now, I mean, you look at the structure of the club, it's Dave Chansiri and the manager. Cisco Munoz went into Watford, and some would say maybe there's too much of a structure there in terms of what goes on at Watford. But there was that structure there for him to go in. You coach the players, and obviously he was successful there in terms of winning promotion. I was mischief making with you last night, wasn't I? When I sent you a text, going, what about Neil Warnock? Obviously, is Sheffield United past?
Take away the name, but look at the CV, what he does to clubs. I mean, there'll be Wednesday fans listening to this, hurling whatever device they're listening to on, and giving my former Wednesday route. I get it, but I've worked with Neil, I've seen his teams. You've seen him at first hand at work.
I know. And look, it's been done before. We saw George Graham. Rafa Benitez didn't end well. Obviously, former Liverpool manager. That's an awful example. Everton. No, but you know what I mean? So it has been done. It has been done, but and I know Alan Biggs, a respected journalist up in Sheffield, know Alan really well, and I think he suggested Neil wouldn't rule it out. So there's Neil. You even think about Mark Warburton, who's out the game at the moment, was coaching with West Ham last season, left there in the summer. Nathan Jones, I think, was interviewed. You might know more than me, know Nathan a bit better, but before Cisco got the job, so he could be in with a shout. But it's a big job to take on, and with Dave Chansiri, there's so much going on behind the scenes. I mean, you do have to remember that he did, under his ownership, Wednesday, we're one game away from the Premier League. But you think about those days, and it's spiralled since. And then Darren Moore brought it back to a really good position. And as I said earlier, as soon as he left, that momentum just went. So we'll wait and see.
definitely we'll see who rocks up there. Rotherham as well, just above them. They need well, of course, it's another tough task for Matt Taylor. Keeping them in the division was wonderful at the end of last season after all the yo-yo in. That's his next big challenge there, of course, at the New York Stadium. At the top of League One, you get Portsmouth. They've won 4 on the bounce. Oxford nicely nestled behind them under Liam Manning in second. Again, the expectation, if you were a League One layperson, would be Pompey, big club, and should be at the very, very top. Oxford, given what we've seen from them over the course of the last few years, again, another team that started brightly and so far is staying the course.
Yeah, and they're, a point behind Pompey?
They are, exactly, with the game in hand,
Game in hand and playing well, scoring goals. As you say, I think they won the last 4 and they scored 3 goals in all of them, I think, in every single game. But, we mentioned Liam Manning earlier this season. He's got his very precise style of play, as we've spoken about with managers before. I think, going back to Kieran McKenna when we had him on the podcast the other week, a really interesting point he made about the style of play is that the players actually enjoy going into training and playing this way every day. And I remember talking to Harry Winks of Leicester not so long ago, and he said, it's soul-destroying being in a team that is set up to defend and not have the ball. You want the ball, and Oxford play, try to play that way with Liam Manning, and it's just a point off Portsmouth. Portsmouth, unbelievable, Prutts, unbeaten since last March, I think, since they were beaten by Sheffield Wednesday, and John Mousinho.
Cracking job he's doing, John, isn't it?
Well, I mean, moving from that position with the PFA into coaching. Yeah. I know, going back to Oxford, the link is Carl Robinson. When John Mousinho was injured when he was at Oxford, Carl Robinson kind of said, come along on, be part of the coaching staff on match days. So that gave him, I guess, a taste of all that. But I think with Portsmouth, obviously a big club, you need a big personality to manage that club, a big character. And they're going well at the moment. It's an amazing unbeaten record.
And Aloni at Oxford, of course, from Everton is Stan Mills. I had the pleasure of spending 4 hours in the car in the early hours of last night with his dad, Danny Mills, of obviously ex-England, playing in every minute of a World Cup, Leeds United, Borough, etc., etc. And he's more than happy with his son being there. Not getting as many minutes as he would like, but he's a young player, 19 years old, and gone to a club in Oxford who, as you say, are going to help develop a young footballer that I'm sure has got a bright future. I mean, if he's as tenacious as his old man, he's got half a chance, hasn't he? I
was just wondering, who got the worst out of that deal, you or Danny?
I think as I was talking at him via several service stations up the M1. I mean, I've got his number. He's probably changed it already. Anyway, right, moving down the division, we're looking at a team in Cheltenham Town who've got a new manager. It's wonderful, isn't it, to see Darryl Clark back? The type of man, the type of manager, the type of broad-minded, lived experience, highs, unbelievable lows, but a man that we've worked with, and it's just great to see back in a dugout, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and on the pitch, he improves clubs, doesn't he? So if you look at the clubs he's been at, obviously the Bristol Rovers challenge was to get them back up. He did that. Port Vale got them promoted. It's a shame it ended the way it did at Port Vale, really. I did them last season, obviously. Darryl was in charge at that point, and David Flitcroft, the sporting director, and it's a really good structure there at that club. But obviously, ultimately he left in the end. But I think it's potentially a really astute signing there by Cheltenham. And as I say, Darryl will always, his track record will tell you, he will improve clubs. They've got to score a goal, Prutts, haven't they? Because
11 consecutive league games.
And everyone, it's catching the nation's attention as well now, isn't it? And everyone is looking at it. I mean, I've obviously never played the game professionally. Anfield Junior League, Stanley Park is where I made it, Prutts.
What position?
Right back, mate. Right back behind the goal.
Yes. Was that a right back when right backs were just right backs? None of that going forward.
Exactly.
Give
or
it
left
to your
back
winger.
in the dressing room. But everyone's looking at it. But I was going to say to you as a player, I mean, that's got to play in your mind now when everyone is talking about Cheltenham not scoring a goal.
It's huge. It's an albatross, to say the least. I mean, it's a whole. I mean, what's the collective noun for albatross? I mean, and you look at the players. Obviously, they've got some great experience with the likes of Curtis Davis in the ranks. He unfortunately saw red during the week, but he's under no illusions, is he, Dal? But what he's also got from an experiential point of view, is with teams going down and getting them back up, of getting them back together and making sure that they go again and bounce back. So there is that element of why he's there and what he's going to be able to bring to that particular setup. Of course, we're going to keep a keen eye on that. Down into League Two, a man that we're going to speak to in due course is Dave Challinor, the Stockport County boss. 5 wins on the spin for them.
Yeah.
Currently 4th in that division. We saw them get all the way to the playoff final, losing the final against Carlisle. Carlisle get themselves back into League One. He's a man who's a serial promotion winner, and in this wonderful rich vein of form. As I said, we'll talk to him later on in the podcast, and don't want to tempt fate, but 5 wins on the spin. When you look from the outside looking in, all is rosy in the county world.
Yeah, first of all, have you got a dog, Prutts? Was that your
Sorry,
dog?
yes.
Because suddenly, if it's me, I don't have a dog. And
No, you're fine. We've got our dog, and we've got my delightful mother-in-law's dog, who is still barking away. I think this is their input on what League Two is about. They're big fans of Stockport County and Dave Challinor.
I just sort of point it out in case anyone was listening, and we had to flag it up. As for Stockport, I did them in the playoff semi-final second leg against Salford last season. Obviously, they won that on penalties. Lost the final, they've obviously having to recover from that. They've had a slow start results-wise, but then they started to put it together now, as you mentioned, 5 wins on the spin. I just think using the power of Edgeley Park, Prutts, because that's a great place. When it's packed and it's bouncing, they have to use that, and Dave Challinor does use it and use it well. But yeah, I think that 5-0 win against Wrexham was huge for them as well, and they're coming through the crowd again, aren't they?
Certainly does feel like a statement victory, doesn't it? And one that could propel them forward, as it has done. That was the word I was trying to think of the other week, Gary, wasn't it?
Yeah,
propel.
Propel. Or catapult. Well, yeah, no, propel, yeah, because you text me about 2 days later. I've got the word.
And I think in place of it, I used penultimate, which just does not make any sense whatsoever. What does make a lot of sense, we talked about Stockport in 4th, is Notts County in 1st position, who are, another team in League Two, as seems to be the case in League Two, who are involved in quite high-scoring games, which is an absolute joy, isn't it, if you are, like me and you, big fans of the divisions in general, as these wonderful bystanders. Again, 3 points clear of AFC Wimbledon in 2nd, Crewe in 3rd. Again, another grand name of the Football League, Crewe Alexandra. But Notts County getting on with what we perhaps thought Notts County would do, but with a little less fanfare than other teams in same division, shall we say.
I think the thing with Notts County is they've been in Wrexham's shadow, haven't they, in the last couple of years, let's face facts. And, they got the promotion last season, fully deserved after the points total they got. And they've won the first 5 home league games. I think it's the first time since the 1960s they've done that. It's not just the wins, though, Prutts. It's the way they play under Luke Williams as well. And, Luke has obviously been a coach at Swindon, head coach of Swindon. He's been a coach at Bristol City. Again, he's got this style of football that he wants to play, and the players are enjoying it. David McGoldrick's gone in there, which
scored again.
Oh no! And it's such a coup to get him, wasn't it? To get David McGoldrick's signature, because Derby offered him a new deal, and he scored 25 goals last season for Derby, I think it was. They offered him a new deal. He said, "No, I want to go and play for Notts County. That's a club he supported as a boy." That's his club. He's kind of gone home. I know he had a loan spell there a long time ago, and it didn't quite work out as he would have liked. But to get him in, and he loves the style of football that Luke Williams is playing. Says he's probably tactically the best coach he's worked with. So that shows you what a job Luke is doing, and also David McGoldrick and how important it was to get him in. And
also offends every other coach that he's ever played for.
Yes,
which, it's wonderful. And to magnify the march of time that it waits for no man, Gary, he was a young player at Southampton when I was there, which makes me feel horrendously
and he still made it.
He did. So it was an exalted group of young players that came through there. Again, I'm not taking full responsibility for Theo Walcott and Gareth Bale, but if you're going to shine a bit of light my way. Fun fact, I did a yo-yo test with Gareth Bale when he was a young kid. He must have been 17 at the time in pre-season. Subsequently wiped the floor with me. That is one of the fittest young footballers I've ever seen. And kind of looking around going, who's this? Who's the kind of goofy-looking kid that's just come in and absolutely smashed it to pieces? Oh, that's Gareth Bale. But by the by, I don't know.
World's best.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. We lost touch after that. Further down the pyramid we go,
Yes.
and a manager and a man. I mean, it was an unbelievable footballer in his time, and we've seen him operate at different levels throughout our wonderful pyramid here in England. Is Mark Hughes? He got his team to the playoff semi-finals last season.
Yeah.
In Bradford City, lost over 2 legs, of course, to Carlisle, eventual winners and promotion winners, and of course, it was something that Dave Challinor saw at close call with regards to Carlisle getting past them at Wembley.
Yeah.
He's left Bradford City, 3 wins in 11, 18th in League Two. Glyn Hodges, his assistant, has gone as well. How do we surmise it? Because we saw Mark go in, we saw big name.
Yeah.
That's a big club in this particular division, getting so close last season, but 18th now. Can you understand the decision that's been made?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? I did Bradford earlier this season against Grimsby in the last international break. Spoke to Ryan Sparks, the chief executive there then, and he was telling me how they got Mark Hughes, how, again, big coup to, such a great coup to get him. Actually, Mark Hughes' advisors who emailed Ryan Sparks, and he didn't see it for a bit because it went into his spam folder.
God.
And then eventually he saw it and went, yeah, why not? And they were hoping that would be, and why would you not hope that would be the one to get them out the league? But I mean, I got the impression Bradford have got to get out the league this season. So their budget's top 7. Top 7 is the budget, so the aim is top 7. And the pressure was on Mark. He was in the final year of his contract, so the pressure was on Mark to do it this season. And, he's been without Andy Cook, who scored 31 goals. He's just come back now. I think he scored 5 goals in his last 4 games. So without him, he was injured. Abu Issa left to go to Grimsby, and I know he started the season well, but he was injured during his time at Bradford, so there's no real surprise that he left in the summer. And of course, the big one was Jake Young. So Jake Young went out on loan to Swindon, and he's been scoring scoring goals for fun.
Absolutely flying, yeah.
And so I suppose Bradford fans were thinking, hang on, why isn't he scoring goals for us? And Mark changed the shape this season to play a back 3, and they didn't think Jake fitted into that system. But obviously he's gone out to Swindon, played up front, and has scored goals. So yeah, it's a shame it's worked out that way, because in many ways, Mark, he wasn't getting interviewed for jobs, Mark Hughes, before this Bradford job came along. And he's put his reputation a bit on the line, hasn't he, with League Two, and then leaving a League Two club in that way. It's not great for Mark. Both of them get back in, and Bradford City, Prutts, what's like 15,000 season ticket holders. Is brilliant doing games there, but they're in the wrong league, aren't they? And that's the pressure on the next manager.
It's a huge football club, and obviously an institution in football, not just in England but in Yorkshire, of course. Right, Gary, you can take a little break now, my friend. It's a stellar first half we've had from you. Put your feet up, and hopefully we'll get just the same level of commitment, endeavour, and output when we speak to Dave Challinor in due course. Because we're going to take a little break now, because to celebrate Black History Month, Leyton Orient's Omar Beckles is here with his football icon.
Hi, I'm Omar Beckles, and this is my football icon. So my first memory of Limboy Primus was seeing him playing for Pompey. He seemed like a solid centre-half, and I was trying to mould myself into one, so he seemed like a really good example. And yeah, I guess also a fond memory when I got to meet him in person, when he came, and I was playing for Shrewsbury at the time, and he just connected me with a few other people that was within my team that were fellow Christians, and as he works within Christians in Sport. So yeah, it was just really good to kind of meet him in the flesh, but just seeing him as a beast on the pitch and a really nice man off it, yeah, just seemed like just really good experience. What made Limboy Primus so special was, I guess, his ability to be the beast that I said he was on the pitch, but also to be just this really gentle and caring person off the pitch. I've always kind of never seen that you could do both, but he was able to model that, and I think that for me was massive. So he had a huge impact on my career because he was able to kind of encourage me in my faith as a Christian, to be bold in kind of what I believe. And I guess he was able to model and be an example for someone like me to know that I can have faith and also can have football at the same time. And that's inspired me to be able to, just be unapologetically Christian. My best story of Limboy was, I guess, just personally meeting him. He was a bit of a role model, a bit of an icon for me. So to be able to meet him in the flesh was a blessing, but also to know that we had something in common, and to know that I could call on him as a friend down the line was a real blessing. So it was just being able to get access to him, and I guess we still communicate now, we're good friends. If I saw him today, which I'm sure I will, just thank you. Thank you for all the advice. Thank you for being such an example. thank you for paving a way for me, not just as a centre half, but also as a footballer with faith and knowing that the two can coexist.
And we'll be celebrating Black History Month again next week and throughout the month of October right here on the official EFL podcast. Okay, joining myself and the delightful Gary Weaver, who's been wonderful in the first half, more of the same please Gary in the second, is a Stockport County boss who is 5 games on the spin in a winning hot streak, 4th in League Two, and he's smiling, so everything in the garden must be rosy. I mean, what could go wrong? Cue Saturday, but such is a manager's lot, Dave Challinor, that you must be very happy right now.
Yeah. Morning. First off, I think. Listen, unfortunately, we're in an industry, as everyone will tell you, that's decided by results, and as much as managers, coaches will try and look the other way and look at performances and being consistent in what we go about. Fundamentally, your mood can quite largely be decided by how you get on a Saturday and a Tuesday, and that's never gonna change. So we're in a good run. Like I say, we're going to enjoy it while we can and keep it going. I suppose, in the knowledge from my perspective, that last season when we won 5 on the bounce, we then went to Barrow and were absolutely awful. So we guard against that on Saturday and can tick another one off.
Does it feel? I mean, this unbelievable standard set last season, of course, getting all the way through to Wembley, and then this season starts. Expectation levels perhaps have been pushed up a little higher from the fans and the league in general. Does it feel now that, given this winning run, that your season's really started? You're really getting stuck into what you want from this campaign.
I suppose it does to a certain degree. I'm still really confident that the best of us is still to come, because if you look at what we've got out of the team currently in terms of injuries, we're at the moment we're having a great run. If we can get through the next month, we'd hope to have sort of 6, maybe 7 real senior pros back in our squad, and then all of a sudden that just gives us more depth. Makes it a little bit maybe difficult for us in terms of picking a team and managing expectations that way. But I think the challenge that is then on the players that are in the starting 11 will be greater, and we'll have a little bit more margin for maybe lads not being at it at the moment. We're asking the same 11 to almost rinse and repeat,
do it again
and do it again, and fingers crossed we don't have anyone else sort of drop out. But that's where we're currently at. But hopefully when they're back, we'll get better and we'll get stronger.
Dave, I did a League Cup side with Gary Neville, Salford Leeds, a few weeks ago. I was talking to him about obviously the Salford setup from last season. He said, "Oh, we lost Louis Barry to Stockport. Can't believe that." Obviously, he was on loan at Salford, went back, and now he's there. He was gutted about that. and Ibu Toure as well. I mean, getting those two players in. Nick Powell, obviously, I know he's injured at the moment. It's convincing Nick Powell as well to come to Stockport. How important have those 3 players been?
Yeah, well, we I suppose in the summer you have to look at things and reflect on what we were as a team, and like I said, we felt we were very good in certain areas. If anything, we wanted to try and improve our plan A and almost have a plan B. We were a team that crossed the ball an awful lot. I thought we had the ability to, I suppose, some feedback from other managers, to play through, round and over teams. We probably got a little bit reliant on Kyle Wootton, who was absolutely fantastic for us, but we obviously lost him at the back end of last year, and he's still currently out. So we looked at what we needed to do in the summer, and we felt that I suppose game changes and dribblers was something that we wanted to try and do, especially when we played at home a few times. Teams came and quite openly said that they set up to make sure they didn't concede and put lots of players behind the ball, and you're looking then for somebody to try and open something up. You then look at what dribblers there were in League Two and League One last year, and Louis came up as on top in terms of that. We hoped, and we had to be patient, because he's had some loans that have been a little bit up and down for him in terms of what he's done, in terms of numbers, and sometimes with a young player, I suppose you need to go into the loans knowing what a successful loan looks like for him. So we had to be a little bit patient and almost wait for maybe League One clubs to drop off, and then we managed to get that one done. We hoped to try and get a similar profile on the opposite side of the pitch, so an inverted ball carrier, if you like. And we didn't really do that till right at the back end of the window in terms of bringing Odin in, funny enough, from Salford as well. But Louis been fantastic, and just in terms of, we want somebody to go and dribble, and what he's done at the moment, he's added numbers, he's added goals and assists to what he already did. The important thing for him now will be continuing that, but also almost refining it and making, and maybe about being a little bit selective in his decisions in the final third. At the moment, we're just saying to him, listen, dribble, keep dribbling, and keep shooting, keep backing yourself to score, which is great. I think there was a couple of occasions on Tuesday night where his balance is terrific. You think he's going to get knocked over, and he managed to stay on his feet, which and sort of tiptoe along the touchline and the byline, and putting a couple of great balls across, which were sort of centimetres away from getting assists and getting goals. When he can do that and build to his game, then I think has a real chance. I suppose alongside that, we brought in Ibby. We do things slightly differently in terms of our setup. We almost want to have a scope to play a back four or a back three. And what we'll call, I suppose, Ibby will fall in versatile left for us, versatile left defender. He can play left of a three, because we'll ask them to almost be like full-backs and be stepping in possession. He can play as an orthodox left-back, and he can play as a left wing-back. So he ticks all the boxes for us in terms of what he can do. His experience has been great. He's had a fantastic run at Salford in terms of 5 or 6 consistent seasons at the level. So it was a great one for us to be able to get him. Combine that with the fact that he's worked with Louis before, and both really well. It's a good combination down that side for us.
Dave, when you mentioned players there and systems, and we're both from a generation of football which, when you look back now, seems relatively simple, but at the time I obviously made it look very hard by virtue of the input. But have you and it's a real pleasure being able to chat to managers that are former players on our podcast, is their experience of the evolving changing room, but also the evolution of what we see on the pitch. And if you go from League 2 to League 1 to the Championship, the kind of spread of tactical nous, of understanding, of players' minds being slightly broadened to what is being asked of them. I mean, is that too much of a cliche for me to say on the outside looking in that has happened? Have you must have seen that kind of very much at the coalface, these players and how they've evolved and what they ask of you as a manager. Do they want all these different ways of kind of solving that footballing equation of winning a football match?
Some do and some don't. I suppose the honest answer is that there's individuals that will want all of the information. Most of them will want it absolutely black and white, but we all know football is a very grey game. And as much as we can talk about systems, ultimately we'll look at it and go, we'll have a system of how we want to press, because we want to be high press. That will be dependent on what the opposition do. So we can't say that we're going to be a certain shape if they've got an overload in a certain area. You have to change. And then what you want to do with the ball. Others will not want to know. You can give them too much information. I think that the issue that we have, and we all have with football the way it is now, is because of how it's moved forward in terms of whether it be non-league stuff, whether it be lower league stuff, and the amount of exposure there is on the TV, and also the very top level in terms of how football is analysed. Players now ultimately want to do it as they see it on the telly, and I think there's been a massive evolution of the game in terms of I go back to as you say what I sort of played in and what we played in, how much there was tactically. It was probably a lot less than what there is now, but I think there was probably a lot more around your team spirit things, and a gang of lads sitting together and demanding of each other and being adaptable. And I suppose at that point there were probably players on the pitch that you could send a team out onto a pitch and almost go, that's our team, go and win that game, and they'd figure it out. I think at the moment, like I say, you almost tilting towards a phase where they want telling too much, and when that changes on a pitch, there almost can be a little bit of a bit of shock around it. But it is, like I said, the game's evolved ridiculously through foreign players, through foreign managers that have come in at the very, very top level, and that's filtered down. And as people continue to say, there's no way 10 years ago you'd have seen any clubs in non-league football playing out from the back in any way, stretch or form. And I suppose that the game has moved on, and it's been really good for it.
And Dave, I know you've got a really ambitious owner in Mark Stott, who took over in 2020. I think he said then hopefully a 7-year plan to try and get to the Championship, which isn't unfeasible for Stockport, is it? Because they've been there before. They finished 8th, I think, in the second tier in the 90s. But how do you find that relationship with Mark? Because I know he wanted to give back to the town, and that's why he bought the club. I think he once bought David Beckham's Bentley, didn't he? A long time ago. But how do you find that relationship, and also the ambition of the club? I mean, do you kind of look at Luton and see what they've done, and in years to come, potentially, this could be you?
Listen, there are good news stories throughout football, and as the habit of doing that. You could look at it and say they're sort of few and far between. I think, from my perspective, it's really, really good to be somewhere where there's a plan and there is a sort of an expectation to try and be successful, because that brings different challenges, and in my opinion you can only improve you as a manager. I'd much rather be somewhere where there was a hope and expectation to get promoted than there was to sort of tread water and maybe sort of sneak into being successful, if you like, in terms of what that looks like. And he didn't sort of get involved with the club sort of just blind in terms of what it looks like. So we look at Stockport as a town, but a really big town, and the scope to be able to increase fan base, increase the size of the stadium, what the support was when the club was back in the Championship, and I think the big one, or one of the main ones in terms of moving forward, was the location of it, just in terms of building an academy. So again, Director of Football Simon Wilson speaks at the moment about sort of almost buy into building. So you want to try and get yourself progressed and move through, but ultimately then it comes about being sustainable and getting players through the academy. And when you see where we are in terms of catchment with the big clubs we've got around ourselves, they release a lot more players than they sign. So we've got to make sure that we do our stuff that way, and can we provide a pathway to ultimately get young players through the academy into the first team and work it like that. But we're given every opportunity to be successful here. Like I say, in terms of the infrastructure, the facility we have here day to day is great.
Is it still Manchester City's old training base, Carrington? Is that where that?
Yeah, we're on that site. But Sale Sharks are in Man City's building, which is just over the back, but we split the pitches, so we're in a different building over this side. But again, a brilliant facility, and like I say, gives us the best chance.
The way that sounds, because that's the broader element of what, I mean, it's an awful saying, but what the project is.
He said it.
And I've done it with inverted commas as well. In fact, thanks Dave, thanks for joining us. I understand if you're going to leave us now. But that reflects, of course, you being a part of that and you knowing how to get promoted. So it's a two-way thing, isn't it? You talk about what the football club wants, but for Dave Challinor, the football manager, you're as ambitious as anybody in that building, aren't you, to get another promotion on your CV, get another team and a club carried forward, and one that you've obviously got an affinity to as well.
Absolutely, like I say, within the building, and we speak about that. Anybody that's coming here, and I've said it in my previous, was really the end goal for them can't be Stockport County. And as bad as that sounds, this is something that you'll see around a journey or a project. They're on some of them young in terms of where some of them are at the start, some are at the middle, unfortunately some are at the end, or coming towards the end, but there's still lots can be achieved. So there'll be individual objectives, goals that people want to get to. From our side of things, as a management team, our job's to improve them, to make them better, and ultimately have the issue with dealing with other teams wanting to come and take them. In the meantime, if we get that right, then there's a big opportunity, as you say, for us to get promoted. And I think, from my perspective, looking individually, I managed for 10 years and didn't get an opportunity in the Football League. I had to take a team up, and my mindset really is exactly the same here. I've got an opportunity where the ambition for the owner of this football club is to get to the Championship. It's a real tough tough ask in terms of, you look at League One's almost split a little bit now. There's 10, maybe 12 massive clubs, and there's 10, 12 clubs.
There's so many former Premier League clubs in there, isn't there? It's
ridiculous. So it is tough, but we have that aim. And for me, like I say, to be able to hopefully manage in League One and hopefully manage in the Championship, I've got the opportunity to do that here, or I'm given the tools to be able to try and get as close to that as possible, which is, like I say, is a real positive, and one of the main reasons why I'm here.
It's an amazing record you got, Dave. One promotion every other season, so you do one probably. It's like, not to put the pressure on. But I was just going to take you back. You know, you're at Colwyn Bay when you started out managing there. I mean, how many? We talked about the facilities, obviously at Stockport, and delegation. How many jobs did you have to do at Colwyn Bay when you were managing there? We had travel agent, groundsman, manager.
I think that, for me, that's the beauty of being able to be in a situation where I am now with. Yeah. The club here, they're very different. We're so fortunate in terms of investment in the infrastructure, so in the staffing, in the training ground, all them bits. You're at a point where you can trust and rely on others to get on with things whilst I'm doing things that are maybe more enjoyable at certain times.
Talking to us.
Yeah. Whereas you go back to Colwyn Bay and File to a certain degree. You do everything. You're involved in anything. You're involved in watering the pitch. You're involved in grass cutting. You're involved in agents. You're involved in all the recruitment. So you have, I suppose, an opportunity to have an eye on every single aspect of management, and that can only benefit you further down the line. When you get to this point now, and we have a director of football that can speak to agents and do all the negotiating. Yeah. And you can sit back. It's much more relaxing. Like I say, to focus on the things that you need to focus on. So whether that's my personal growth as a manager in terms of what I need to improve, you don't get the chance to do that when you're in almost the spin wash of maybe non-league football and what that looks like, and it's you, maybe an assistant and a bag of balls, and go and deal with players, which. I wish I'd have wrote a book.
Still time.
Kept the diet. Oh, you forget the stuff, but kept the diet. Yeah. Some of the things that go on is you sit back and you have to chuckle. But fortunately, a lot more professional now, and it still happens, but less than normal.
Dave, you talked there about writing things down and the memory of that, and obviously when we put together who we're going to talk to, and yours is a name that I've known for a very, very long time. The 20th of November 1999, Tranmere Rovers 3, Nottingham Forest 0. It was a Tranmere side that involved Dave Challinor, Clint Hill, Gareth Roberts, Alan Mann, Gary Jones, Andy Parkinson, manager John Aldridge. Against the Forest side, Mark Crossley in goal. There was a David Prutts in midfield who did nothing in the game from missing. The stats that I'm looking at. Chris Bat-Williams was there, God rest his soul. Yeah. Andy Johnson, the Welsh one, he saw red. We had Mikael Beck up front, and we had David Platt in the dugout. I mean, when you've got the pleasure and the absolute privilege of playing professional football, and you look at a body of work of a career, I mean, the only thing I could possibly remember about that is the big old bath in the away dressing room at Prenton Park, which was utterly disgusting post match, and I'm glad to say that they don't really exist anymore. But I mean, that's I've not brought it up to make us both feel tremendously old, but that was football literally from the last century, from the last millennium. My God, time flies, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, crazy. And listen, it's one of them things. I think it's great to be able to look back, because I've really got, again, massively fond memories. I suppose I've got a daily reminder, because Clint's my assistant, so he's in the room if you like, all the time. Saw Andy Park. We played Tranmere the other day, and I've just seen Andy Park. And your memories always come back. I think you look at, certainly from our perspective, in terms of that team and that team moving forward, we probably saw ourselves as very much overachieving with what we had as footballers. We were a group of mates that sort of just got on really, really well together. And when you look at, again, probably disrespectful to our team, you look at the names you just read out in your team, you're going, we punched our weight so much, and probably did ourselves a little bit of a disservice in time, how much influence that can have on football matches. But it is great to I suppose, reminisce at times, but you forget, you're playing and you forget, and things move on ridiculously quickly, and you're almost in the rat race now of running day to day and forget what happened on Tuesday, never mind 20 years ago.
During that time at Tranmere, you had that rivalry with Bolton, didn't you? And your long throws used to really wind up Sam Allardyce, didn't they?
It was, you know what? I don't know what the thing was. The rivalry wasn't really, but the rivalry came from Sam and Aldo, and I don't know where it came. They were just, again, just in terms of characters. You talk about a desire and a passion to win. They were like, and it built from that. And I suppose we were in the same division. The clubs at times are going in different directions. Bolton bringing in the Norwegians and Scandinavians were coming over. They went to the Premier League. We went the other way. But there was league games. We obviously played against each other in the Worthington Cup semi-final, home and away fixtures. So it built from there really. But them two didn't get on. That sort of fed onto the pitch a little bit. But at the time, like I say, that was probably the first influx of maybe foreign players over into this country, and it was sort of championship level at the time, not Premier League. And then you had a group of Scousers and all that were coming up against them in big games that wanted to go and get the better of them, and that's how it. That's how it went. There wasn't massive animosity on the pitch. Off the pitch, it was horrendous.
And there was always a great atmosphere there at Prenton Park as well. And I mean, this is for another podcast, but I've got memories of Weaver, you telling me about John Aldridge has got a sauna at the top of his house. But that's again...
Aldo, he's Do you know what? Aldo used to work with my uncle fixing trains before he became a footballer in Liverpool, bizarrely. But yeah, he used to have a sauna before heading off for the match. Aldo before.
Wow.
Going off to co-commentate on the radio.
Therein reaffirms the point I made last week of the 6 degrees of Scouse separation. Of course, Weaver's uncle worked with John Aldridge somewhere. God,
on the trains.
He probably set him up in one of the cup finals, didn't he? Yeah, that's the way that we work on it. Anyway, chaps, this has been wonderful. You've both been fantastic. Gary Weaver, lovely to see you again, my friend.
And you, Prutts. Good man. And Dave, nice one. Good luck for the season, buddy.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Dave, it's been wonderful to have your company, mate. I know you're a very, very busy man, as all managers are, but it's great to see Stockport County. We hope that the heartbreak of last season is put right at some stage over the course of this, and we wish you all the very best.
Fingers crossed.
Well, that's it for another week on the official EFL podcast. A big thank you to Dave Challinor, Omar Beckles, and of course Gary Weaver co-hosting across the course of this week's podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed it, then please do give us a 5-star rating, press the follow button and share on your socials. If you'd like to get in touch, our email address is podcast@efl.com. That's podcast@efl.com. My name's David Prutton, and I'll see you same time next week for another episode of the official EFL podcast.